Bring it on, Gavin. Bring it on. That was the White House's message to Governor Gavin Newsom of California when he threatened to sue President Donald Trump and the administration for things that President Donald Trump and the administration are legally able and allowed to do. Should be a fun lawsuit. Nobody knows more about winning lawsuits than President Donald Trump, but Gavin Newsom seems to forget that. This is the 47 Daily Podcast. My name is Mark Kaye, and today is Wednesday, August the 13th. Yesterday, Karoline Leavitt in her press briefing was asked about gruesome Gavin Newsom trying to take on the Trump administration for holding back funds from California universities after they were shown to be in violation of DEI regulations.
Bring it on, Gavin. This administration is well within its legal right to do this, and we want to ensure that our colleges and our universities are respecting the First Amendment rights and the religious liberties of students on their campuses, and UCLA has failed to do that. And I have a whole list of examples that I will forward to Gavin Newsom's press office if he hasn't seen them himself.
I mean, the First Amendment's right there. It's the first one. It's the first. You can't miss it at all. You got to have the religious opportunity and freedom for everybody, freedom of speech, and there's violations at UCLA and other California universities, not just to mention California, but there's a bunch of other universities around the country who have been negotiating with President Donald Trump, paying massive fines and altering their curriculum and their rules and regulations because they realize they are violating not just Donald Trump's executive orders, but also the Constitution of the United States of America, which is something no university that receives federal funding should do. No university should do it anyway, but especially one that receives federal funding. So President Donald Trump and Karoline Leavitt eager to take on the state of California in court where they believe they will win. And speaking of California, the politicians from the Golden State are still wreaking havoc. And President Donald Trump wants everyone to know, look, just because these folks are from California, it doesn't mean they can do whatever they want. And one of those is Adam Schiff, a reporter in the press briefing, asked Karoline Leavitt if Donald Trump, President of the United States, was still going after shifty Adam Schiff because of the lies and the betrayal and the corruption that he's shown over and over again, especially during the Russiagate scandal and the impeachment that happened immediately after that. Here was her response.
The president has already said he wants to see Adam Schiff held accountable for the countless lies he told the American people in relation to the Russiagate scandal. I brought Tulsi Gabbard out to this podium to talk to you about all of that, and this administration is taking accountability very seriously. As for this new FBI whistleblower report, I understand Kash Patel last night declassified a 302 FBI document showing that a whistleblower who is a Democrat, a career intelligence officer who worked for Democrats on the House Intel Committee for more than a decade, repeatedly warned the FBI in 2017 that then Rep. Adam Schiff had approved leaking classified information to smear then President Donald Trump over the Russiagate scandal. This is obviously a bombshell whistleblower report. Hopefully more people in this room will cover it as such. And I have a quote from the FBI director for all of you. He has said this: "For years, certain officials used their positions to selectively leak classified information to shape political narratives. It was all done with one purpose: to weaponize intelligence and law enforcement for political gain. Those abuses eroded public trust in our institutions. The FBI will now lead the charge with our partners at DOJ, and Congress will have the chance to uncover how political power may have been weaponized and to restore accountability." That's what the administration is focused on, and hopefully we'll see some more media reports on this whistleblower allegation. If this were reversed, if this were allegations against the president or any of these cabinet officials, I'm sure everyone in this room would cover it as such.
I don't know about that, because Karoline Leavitt pointed out just moments later that there are some stories that the media does not pick up on, not just the ones about the corrupt criminal elected officials in California, not just the one about Adam Schiff and the whistleblowers. They don't just ignore the stories that are beneficial to President Donald Trump and harmful to the Democrat Party, wherever they happen to be. They also ignore stories about crime being down in our nation's capital and the park police doing a great job in mitigating Homelessness. One of the things that President Donald Trump said that he was going to do now that it's Liberation Day in D.C. was get rid of the roving gangs of wild youth, get rid of the maniacal, deranged drug addicts, get rid of the violent criminals, get rid of the graffiti, and also get rid of the homeless population. They're homeless, but they don't need to be camping out in Washington, D.C.'s storied downtown historic district, especially where our tourists and our public and our elected officials want to work and live and play every single day. And one of the questions asked was, what's Donald Trump going to do with all these homeless people? And Caroline Leavitt pointed out to the media, while you guys were focused on dumb stuff and not paying attention to the job that President Donald Trump has already been doing, the homeless have already been successfully moved to other areas by the men and women of the Park Police under the expert guidance of Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum.
Not many of you picked up on this, but the United States Park Police has actually done remarkable work in terms of removing homeless encampments from the city. Since the president signed this executive order in March, 70 homeless encampments have been removed by the U.S. Park Police. There are only 2 homeless encampments remaining in D.C. federal parks under the National Park Service's jurisdiction, and the removal of those 2 remaining camps is scheduled for this week. So the U.S. Park Police will be leading this effort alongside MPD.
So that is something that has already been underway. The Park Police have already been working diligently to clean up the homeless population. The media just they don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. And that's not just the Park Police. The Metro Police are surging. DEA agents, a National Guard being called in, all in an effort again for President Donald Trump to bring down crime in our nation's capital and keep the residents of our nation's capital and the visitors and the people who work there safe from what has been a drastic surge in crime. And Judge Jeanine Pirro, she's been on television now every single day, battling back not just against the criminals, but against these weirdos in the press who want to downplay the violence and the degradation and the danger of living in D.C. They are out there saying, now you say that crime is surging, but it's really actually down a little. So why now? Why now are we federalizing the District of Columbia? Well, Judge Jeanine Pirro, who's the district attorney in charge of the District of Columbia, she ain't having none of that.
Anyone who wants to tell me the crime is down and that we don't need an emergency focus on crimes of violence, all they need to do is take a look at this and talk to the loved ones and the family members of these individuals, all shot and killed long before their time.
That is something that Judge Jeanine Pirro wants everybody to remember, that there are violent crime victims in Washington, D.C. every single day. Carjackings, automobile theft, muggings, rapes, murders. There are people who are terrified to walk the streets. A Doge employee suffering a concussion and a broken nose, getting beaten by a gang of wild roving youth, because he was trying to attempt to stop them from carjacking a woman on the streets of D.C. in DuPont Circle. Not even a slum, not even a bad part of D.C. Well, I guess nowadays they're all bad parts, and that's probably one of the reasons why Donald Trump is surging the Metropolitan Police and federalizing the police force so that he can bring law and order back to the shining city on the hill, the nation's capital, the crown jewel of not just the United States of America, but the entire world. The global economy and the power base of the entire planet is in Washington, D.C., and it's one of the deadliest cities around. That just doesn't fly. That doesn't bode well. That's not copacetic when it comes to President Donald Trump and his administration. Some reporter asked about ICE in the middle of all this because, if you can't make a dig at ICE while you're talking about something, then it's not just a good day for the Democrats. But Caroline Leavitt said, look, of course, ICE is going to continue to do their job. And yes, if we run into an illegal alien while cleaning up the streets of D.C., the rules still apply.
If law enforcement officers encounter a criminal in this city and they are an illegal alien, of course the appropriate measures to detain and deport that individual will be taken, as they should. No city should be a sanctuary for anyone other than law-abiding American citizens, and that has been the position of this administration since day one.
Yeah, and that is going to continue to be the position of this administration. And you can ask dumb questions about whether or not ICE is going to be involved in the cleanup of D.C. And you can ask dumb questions about whether or not Tom Homan and the border czar and the Border Patrol are going to continue to deport illegal aliens. And you can continue to ask dumb questions about what's going on in these sanctuary cities. But the fact of the matter is ICE has never been stronger or more focused on its goal, which is removing criminal illegal aliens from this country, the most massive deportation effort we've ever seen, and keeping America safe and solidifying the border. That's been their job since Donald Trump came back into office. That's what Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and the Border Patrol and everybody else said they're going to do, and they're going to continue to do it. And Tom Homan, by the way, was out with a warning because he wants to remind people there's a difference between peacefully protesting, which is protected by the First Amendment of the United States of America, and, interfering with criminal justice.
Look, I'll say this, I've said 1,000 times. If you want to hate ICE, okay, fine. It's a shame, but if you want to protest ICE, you got your First Amendment rights. But I've said from day one, don't cross the line. If you cross the line on knowingly harboring and concealing an illegal alien from ICE, that is a felony. You put hands on an ICE officer, that's a felony. If you impede their efforts, that's a felony, and I've seen a record number of prosecutions across the board in 18 United States Code 111, which is impediment, interference, and so forth. We will prosecute you. We prosecuted judges, we prosecuted members of Congress, and we'll prosecute mayors if we have to. Again, they're real careful about how they say things, but they stop short of crossing that line. Because I think most of them know better, but I guarantee you, if they cross that line, we'll seek prosecution, and Pam Bondi is committed to zero tolerance. The President President Trump committed to zero tolerance on this. So if you cross the line, you'll be prosecuted.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. If we can prosecute judges and members of Congress, yeah, we'll prosecute anybody. They don't look at what you do as a career. They don't look at your celebrity status. They look at whether or not you broke the law. And if you try to harbor an illegal alien, or if you interfere in the justice system, if you try if you thwart the process, if you stand in the way of an ICE agent doing their job by removing a criminal alien from this country, then you too become a criminal, and you will be dealt with accordingly. And I love that Tom Homan continues to remind people that people keep testing him, and of course, they fail. There's a big meeting, by the way, on Friday with Russian President Vladimir Putin here in the United States of America in Alaska. And Donald Trump will be meeting with the Russian president. Vladimir Zelensky will, as at this point, not be in attendance. And there's a lot of questions popping up about that from the press as well. And one of them was, so who's meeting with who?
This meeting came about because the president of Russia asked the president of the United States to meet through his special envoy, Steve Witkoff, who, as you all know, traveled to Russia to have a conversation with Putin at his request. And so the president is agreeing to this meeting at the request of President Putin. And the goal of this meeting for the president is to walk away with a better understanding of how we can end this war. And the president said at this podium yesterday, when he joined all of you in the room, that he hopes in the future there can be a trilateral meeting with these three leaders to finally bring this conflict to an end. But this administration has really used every lever, has taken every measure to achieve peace through a diplomatic solution. And I think the president of the United States getting in the room with the president of Russia, sitting face to face rather than speaking over the telephone, will give this president the best indication of how to end this war and where this is headed.
Basically, Putin blinked and said, I told Steve Witkoff I need to meet with the president of the United States, and the president of the United States, aka Donald Trump, said, okay, let's do it. We're going to meet in Alaska this Friday. In the meantime, while that's going on, while Donald Trump is bringing peace and stability and law and order here to Washington, D.C., while that is happening, we also have Donald Trump working diligently to bring peace to Ukraine, and also the Israeli conflict. But also the economy still continues to boom. Donald Trump bringing in massive amounts of tariff revenue, lowering prices, boosting jobs, and that is all at a record-setting pace. In fact, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, said we're going to have to adjust our numbers up because we're taking in way more tariff revenue than we originally imagined.
Just on the tariff income, I'd been saying 300 billion, but I think we're going to have to substantially revise that up. So well in excess, 1% of GDP. And then with the new investments, they're the sovereign investments that we talked about. But then in terms of the committed investment by private industry, we're well over 10 trillion.
$10 trillion. $10 trillion is what they're estimating. And he says, look, there's so much success rolling through President Donald Trump's second term. It's insane.
There's so much left to do. And look, the success of all this, success of the trade deals, the success of the tax deal, that's President Trump. President Trump applying maximum leverage, but we're going to be working on affordability. I think there's a lot to do on housing. We're going to be given the student loan portfolio. I think that there is a firm but humane way to work on that. It is the largest single asset of the U.S. government. It's up to $1.7 trillion now. So there's always plenty to do, and the China negotiations will be continuing.
Yeah, that's all going on as we speak. And President Donald Trump, look, he's making sure that it's a new golden age, not just for Wall Street, not just for the rich Democrat elites, not just for members of Congress who use their insider trading skills and long-standing foreign wars to make millions and millions of dollars for themselves and their families. No, but for everybody. And Scott Bessent ended with this statement, which I think is probably something that everybody should ingrain into their memories.
As you just announced earlier, Wall Street hit a new high, and within the next year, 2 years, Main Street's going to hit a new high too.
Yeah, Wall Street hit a new high. Main Street's going to hit a new high. We're all going to be high. Well, in high on the hog, not like Hunter Biden high. We're going to be riding high, not smoking crack high. And listen, we got so much more to cover today. There's a lot going on in the world, and that's why we have a second daily podcast. Mark Kaye saves the Republic. Heather M says, I couldn't imagine not having this show in my life. Very nice comments. We appreciate that, Heather M. If you would like to have this show in your life too, it's easy to get. All you have to do is go to markkaye.com, markkaye.com, fill out the little form. We'll send you the link, and you can get Mark Kaye Saves the Republic wherever you want. Whether you want to watch the video live or listen to the podcast, go to markkaye.com, download, subscribe, listen, and enjoy.